ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for watching the show. This is your top human rights organization review. I'm your host, Bryce Dolan. Now today on the show, we're going to take a look at an article from Human Rights Watch. Recently, Human Rights Watch has released their 27th edition, 687-page World Report 2017. In this World Report, they review more than 90 countries and their human rights practices. Today, Human Rights Watch in the World Report takes us over to Vietnam, where rights bloggers and activists have faced constant police intimidation and harassment and have been subject to incommunicado detention and have been imprisoned for exercising their basic rights. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what incommunicado detention is when an individual is being detained or held in jail without being able to contact a third party to let them know where they are. Now, here is a quote directly from our article today. Hopes that Vietnam's new crop of leaders selected at the Communist Party Congress in 2016 would ease up on repression were dashed over the last year, said Brad Adams, Asia Director for Human Rights Watch. If they want the country to live up to its full potential, the authorities need to engage in dialogue with critics instead of silencing them. Now, in 2016, 19 people, including a number of prominent bloggers and land rights activist Can Tai Teo, have been sentenced anywhere from 20 months to 9 years in prison, again for only peaceful rights campaigning or blogging. Now, here is another quote to end our story today from Brad Adams, and I'll explain why I think this is more directed at countries like the United States. Vietnam's international donors and trade partners have for too long prioritized commerce and good relations over support for these brave individuals and the holding of multi-party elections that would bring an end to one of the world's longest-running one-party dictatorships, said Adams. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's a number of things we have to address here. The reason why I believe that quote was more directed at the United States is because Senator Kerry has recently, if he's not still in Vietnam, has visited Vietnam with the U.S. ambassador there and refused to mention any of these things in his visit, or of my knowledge, I have not heard of him mentioning anything of these issues or incidents while he was there on his visit. It was more or less just his last visit to Vietnam before this transition of administrations. Now, this needs to change. When a U.S. senator or there's a U.S. ambassador in the country, there shouldn't be things like this happening. If there are things like this happening, the United States needs to call it out rather than putting their good relations and their commerce and trade in front of proper and legal human rights. Now, staying on this topic of what is right and these human rights, the land rights activist Can Tai Teo, she was sentenced to 20 months in prison. Now, do you know why? If you look up her story, she was sentenced to prison for videotaping soldiers land grabbing from farmers. That is, forcing farmers off their land and claiming it as the federal government's property. Now, she filmed these soldiers just shoving and harassing and abusing these innocent farmers who were doing absolutely nothing but farming and living on their own land. She received 20 months in prison for that, ladies and gentlemen. Link that back home here to the United States, recently up in North Dakota with the Standing Rock protest of the pipeline. Now, if the United States was like Vietnam right now, the people who videotaped what happened in North Dakota at that protest, with the clash between the protesters and the police and law enforcement, people who videotaped that could also be subject to prison time. That is just like what Can Tai Teo did in Vietnam, but it was done here in the United States. So things like this should not be done, especially with close U.S. allies. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to look into this article yourself, you can find the link below in the description, and I encourage you to do so. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get notified every time a new video is posted. Make sure you give our Facebook pages a like and follow us on Twitter. But thanks for watching the show today, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching your top human rights organization review. I was your host, Bryce Dolan.